Hi everyone, my name is Carlos. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at DataGrant. The reason I'm making this video is because I learned many people weren't able to watch my conference at ODSC. So basically I wanted to record it, do it again, and send it to all of you so that we all can share insights and feedback on what I had to say at the conference. So this is a 30-minute conference. Basically, the title of the conference was XOPs and how can data scientists quickly add value to organizations. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll go from there. Okay. All right, perfect. So let me start presentation mode and we'll get started. All right, so first of all, a little bit about me. Again, my name is Carlos. I live in the United States. I hold a BA in marketing. I also hold an MBA, and I'm currently pursuing a master's in computer science at Harvard. My co-founder is Nejati Demir. He's a PhD in machine learning with more than 15 years of experience in software development. Together, we built a company called DataGrant, which is a company specialized in deploying ML models to production. So first of all, we wanted to give this conference based on the knowledge of the more than 500 different interviews that we've done to different data professionals. We've been building DataGrant for around 4 years, and we've accumulated all of that experience, but not only that, research in data science, data engineering. So based on all of those learnings, we put together this presentation that we hope is insightful for all of you. So the first thing is, what are the main problems in data science? And there's principally 3 problems. The first one is infrastructure and architecture. The second one, culture. And the third one, security. And this is not only what Gartner says, this is also what we see in the everyday conversations that we have with partners and clients. So in this conference, we're just going to be focused on 2 of them, which is infra and culture. And hopefully you saw several conferences in ODSC or in other places focused in security. So again, we're just going to focus on the first 2. And this is not going to be a technical conference, so you can lay back a little bit and just enjoy and take all in from what I'm about to explain. All right. So first of all, a quick virtual raise of hands. How many of you feel that you're having trouble quickly providing or giving value to the business or demonstrating value to the business? When I did this show of hands at ODSC, almost about half of the people attending raised their hand. And that was absolutely in line with what research says. Actually, research says that 52% of data scientists feel that they're having trouble demonstrating value to the business. And this is according to Tech Republic. And there's 2 main reasons for that. The first one is production roadblocks, and the second one is organizational skills. So the question is, how have the tools and the organizational structures evolved over time to handle this problem? And how can we help you with the tools to be able to demonstrate value much faster in your organization? So we built what we call the V value. And the V value has 4 elements. The first one, collaboration. The second one, team stage. The third, technology. And the last one, processes. And we're going to go through each one of this. The first one is collaboration. And when we talk about collaboration in business in general, there's a very well-known procedure or schema, which is called Agile. And Agile is proven to demonstrate value, quick value to organizations because it's multidisciplinary teams that come together and work together, usually on a sprint led by a PM, where a goal is set and this team gets together around that goal and pretty quickly show results. And again, this is a proven methodology in business that has been around for a while, and that every time that it's implemented in different teams, it works, it gives results. And this, I'm not gonna go deep into this methodology, but of course you can find information around Agile methodology all over the place on the internet. There's actually conferences and there's actually certifications around this. But again, basically there's 5 elements in this methodology. And again, in your own time, you can go over this and actually try to implement it in your teams, because at this point, what we see on our interviews and on research is that currently data teams are siloed. And there are no only silos between the data teams and the business units within the organization, but we see it as well within the data teams, because we now have specialities within data, like for example, ML ops, data ops, DevOps, etc. And there's silos within those teams. So since data science is a new speciality and teams are starting to learn about how do they put together, again, these teams, there's currently silos and organizations or data teams are not able to show value or demonstrate value as quick as they would want. So the next point is team stage. And I'm gonna go very deep into this item because I think it's very important and it's extremely correlated or related to what I just spoke about collaboration. So first of all, let's talk about the traditional organizational chart where and how data people is included in that organizational chart. These organizational charts are in abstract. So if you don't see a line connecting something, just don't worry about it. Again, they're abstracts. So the first thing that we see, and usually the organizational chart that we see the most, is this one, where a VP of data is, of course, in the same level than the other VPs, and it reports to the CEO. On the other hand, we see a director of data that reports to one of those VPs, right? So these are 2 different organizational charts. In both cases, we think these organizational charts are wrong because there's different life cycles in the organization and different life cycles for the data teams, and the organizational chart needs to adapt to each of those teams. So let's go through that. And let's first go through the stages. We think, based again on our conversations with partners and clients, that there's 3 types of life cycles in data teams. The first one are the kids, the second one, the teenagers, and the third one are the adults. And pretty much, I don't have to go too much in the descriptions for you to imagine what are the characteristics for each one of this, but let's do that exercise. First of all, let's talk about the kids. They usually are teams of 1 or 2 data scientists. They're in the learning process, and there's no processes in place usually with these teams of just 1 or 2 people. The great thing about these teams is that they're eager to learn, right? They absorb information and they're able to adapt. The traditional organizational chart for these teams won't work, right? Because you're not going to have a VP of data in a team that is that small. And on the other hand, if you put a director of data under a VP of marketing, well, that's going to be siloed. That team is going to be siloed and it's just going to do marketing stuff. It's not going to do things for the whole organization. So none of these two work. Now, let's jump into the teenagers. Teenagers are hard, as we all know, right? It's usually 3 to 10 data scientists, 1 or 2 MLOps, and probably a VP of data. The challenge with these teams is that they think they know it all, but sooner or later, they're going to realize that they were screwing up, right? So usually with these teams, what happens is that they set up a team and a technology stack, and they don't foresee all the things that are going to happen. For example, the business units trying to get more models for them, more things into production, and they're just going to collapse. The whole system is going to collapse. So in these teams, again, if you have a VP of data, usually there's silos in the organization. But not only that, let's say they work together, there's no agile component and no collaboration. I can imagine, for example, operations, sales, or marketing starting to get tired of these teams because they don't get the models in time in the business applications that they need. And what usually happens is that these business units go out to the market and try to get the models that they need because, you know, the data team is not delivering whenever they need it. And the adults are usually teams of 10 plus data scientists, 2 or more MLOps, and a VP of data. And usually these are teams that are consolidated and teams that know what's going on, you know, and that have learned throughout the process. The bad thing about these teams is that it's harder for them to adapt. But again, they've learned how things go, and they've put in place a model that usually works. So usually the traditional organizational chart of these teams is that they have a core team of data scientists, but then what they're doing is they're embedding data scientists into business units. So that is giving the company more flexibility and agility, but still there's problems in these adults, and we're gonna dive deeper into that in a little bit. So the biggest problem that these adults are encountering is that whenever the data scientists within the business units need to deploy models, they need to go to the core team. And that's generating friction because they're spending too much time having to go to the core team to be able to deploy a model or to be able to explain something and get approvals, etc. So there's a bottleneck here, right? Because they get to work in an agile way, in teams, in collaboration with the business units, but then when they need to go to the core team, everything breaks. So big bottlenecks here. So there's too many pain points to operationalize models, for example. So let's see the ideal structure at every stage. So for example, in the kits, what we recommend is to have a data scientist, not a VP, just a data scientist, 1 or 2, with a tech layer that it's an XOPs layer. And we're gonna go into the technology in a little bit. But these teams should not be focused on building a core tech stack. They shouldn't be spending the time trying to build pipelines, etc. They should be focused on modeling. And once they have their model, they can deploy easily. In the teenagers, what we need to give them is a tech layer so that in conjunction with agile structures, they can build models and deploy. So how we would work is we're not going to have data scientists here embedded in business units because that's too early. But what we can do is, for example, if operations or sales needs a model, we can put together an agile cell of multidisciplinary people. And we can give those teams a tech layer so that they can iterate and test quickly their models. And then if it works, then we can make it core with a core team. And in the adults, we do need to give these data scientists embedded in the business units a tech layer that is independent of the core team. so that they can test and iterate. And once it works, and once they think that they should make it core, then it goes to the core team. But not every single time that they need to deploy or build an API to go to the core team, because that's going to generate those bottlenecks. So let's jump into the technology, because previously I just talked about the tech stack. So let's talk about XOPs. It's basically a fairly new concept where we bring together all the different specialties in collaboration: data ops, ML ops, DevOps, AIOps, etc. Right? So previously we thought about this independently. Now we're thinking about this in collaboration. So what are the needs on XOPs? So, well, first, collaboration, but two, we need new tools that are based on this XOPs concept, right? How can we bring together all of these specialities so that they're not in silos anymore? So for example, we usually have this thought that putting a model in production is making an API available. That's not putting in production, right? Putting in production is actually bringing the data, running the model, and sending the output to the specific business application the business units need. And for that, besides the ML ops, we need DevOps, right? And at this point in data science, I see all the time people talking in keywords of, oh no, we already have it in production and we already have pipelines. Well, that's not in production. Does the business unit has it, operations or sales or marketing? Do they have a model in their business application? That's putting in production, right? And is the business unit playing a role in putting that in production or not, right? So basically, currently, what we have as a tech stack is, for example, in adults, we have a warehouse. The team is using dbt, for example, as a transformation tool. Then we have the modeling. We can use several tools there, like Data Robot, Alteryx, etc. Then we have the pipeline, and then we have DevOps, right? So usually, at this point, ML ops or data ops goes up to the pipeline. So we need to see all of these together as XOps, because again, it goes from ingestion up until the API that the business units needs. So what happens with each team lifecycle, right? So in kids, we can't have this. We can have all of these stacked, because they're gonna lose focus and they're gonna lose a ton of time doing this. So what we need is an agile methodology where they focus on the model and then they have an XOps stack. Again, an XOps stack is where they can just upload a model and easily deploy. Then in the teenagers, what we talk is agile cells need to come together and they need to have the stack. So what do we need here? We need a core stack to be operated by the core team. And then we need an XOps stack operated by the agile team. And then when they prove the model and when they think, and the core team thinks it's worth to make it core, then they make it core. So again, two different stacks. And in the adults, same thing, right? Now, the embedded teams in the business units have an XOps stack. And then when the core team thinks that a model deserves to be core, then we move it to core. And that way, they're not gonna have the pain points they have to be able to operationalize at this point. Usually these teams have tons of models to operationalize, and they can put them into production because they depend on other teams. So we need to acknowledge that a pipeline is not just deploying a model via API. We need to change that mindset. A real pipeline is a system that allows our models to ingest data, retrain if necessary, and deploy to business units on demand. That's why our mindset needs to change to see the end-to-end flow dependent on lifecycle, organizational structure, and stack, which is basically XOps. Let's change the way we work. Let's demonstrate value to the business, because at the end, business live by generating new revenue. If data and data teams are not helping to do that in a quick and flexible way, then we're not doing anything. Let's move faster and let's adapt. Thank you so much. for taking the time to see this conference, and please leave us your comments and feedback. Thank you.